The notification from my banking app made my stomach drop. I blinked hard, hoping the numbers would somehow rearrange themselves into something that made sense. They didn't. $250,000 gone. I'm Tori, and until that moment, I thought I had my life figured out. 20 years of marriage, two teenagers, and a successful career as a business consultant. I'd spent years building that safety net dollar by dollar, client by client. Now it had vanished without a trace. "Stephen," I called out, my voice steadier than I felt. "Can you come here for a minute?" My husband appeared in the doorway of our kitchen, already dressed for court in his crisp navy suit. "What's up, honey? I've got a meeting in 30. There must be some mistake with the bank." I held up my phone. "The joint savings account. It's practically empty." Stephen's face didn't register surprise. Instead, he smiled. That same smile he used when explaining complex legal terms to clients. "Oh, that. I was going to tell you over breakfast. I made an investment." An investment? The word felt wrong in my mouth. "Remember Piper, the young entrepreneur I mentioned? She's opening this amazing boutique downtown. The business plan is solid. We'll double our money within a year." The room started spinning. Piper, he'd mentioned her exactly twice before, both times in passing, both times with that slight catch in his voice I'd chosen to ignore. "You invested our savings without discussing it with me?" "Our savings?" He laughed, actually laughed. "Come on, Tori. You're overreacting. I know what I'm doing. I'm a lawyer, remember?" The casual dismissal in his voice made something snap inside me. But instead of screaming like I wanted to, I forced myself to smile. "You're right. I'm sure you've thought this through." Stephen checked his Rolex. "I need to run. We'll talk more tonight?" I nodded, watching him gather his briefcase. As he headed toward the garage, his phone buzzed. He answered it in the hallway, voice low but not quite low enough. "Hey, beautiful." "Yes, it's all taken care of. Don't worry about Tori, she's fine with it. Listen, I'll stop by the boutique later." My hands gripped the kitchen counter until my knuckles turned white. The granite felt cool against my palms, grounding me as my world tilted on its axis. Sophia, my 15-year-old daughter, wandered in wearing her soccer uniform. "Mom, you okay? You look weird." "I'm fine, sweetie." I straightened up, reaching for the coffee pot with trembling hands. "Just work stuff." "Dad left already?" "Important meeting." The words tasted bitter. "He's been having a lot of those lately," Sophia muttered, grabbing an apple from the fruit bowl. Jeremy, my son, thundered down the stairs next, headphones around his neck. "Mom, I need money for the field trip." "Ask your father," I said, surprising myself with the edge in my voice. "He's apparently making all the financial decisions these days." Both kids stared at me. I never talked about money issues in front of them. "Mom?" Sophia's voice was careful. "What's going on?" I forced another smile. "Nothing, honey. Just stressed about work. You'll both miss your bus if you don't leave now." After they left, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at my phone. The banking app was still open, mocking me with its numbers. 20 years of marriage, and I'd never once questioned Stephen's loyalty. Now every business dinner, every late night at the office, every casual mention of networking events seemed suspect. My phone buzzed. A text from Hazel, my best friend. "Coffee today? You look like you need it." I hadn't posted anything online, hadn't called anyone, but Hazel had this sixth sense about these things. She'd known something was wrong with her ex-husband months before discovering his affair. An affair? The word I'd been avoiding floated to the surface of my mind. I typed back, "Usual place, noon. I need your advice." Then I opened my laptop and pulled up my consulting files. If Stephen thought I would just roll over and accept this, he didn't know me at all. I'd built my career helping businesses identify their weaknesses and strengthen their foundations. Now I would use those same skills to understand exactly what my husband had done. My phone buzzed again, an email notification. A boutique downtown was requesting consulting services. The owner's name made my blood run cold. Piper Riley. I clicked delete, but my finger hesitated over the screen. Maybe. Maybe this was exactly the opening I needed. My husband had taught me one thing over his years as a lawyer. Sometimes the best defense is a carefully planned offense. I clicked open instead of delete, a plan already forming in my mind. Two could play at this game of secrets and lies. He did what? Hazel nearly knocked over her latte. We were tucked away in the corner of our favorite coffee shop, far from the usual business crowd. 250,000. Just gone. I wrapped my hands around my untouched coffee. And he acted like it was nothing, like I was being unreasonable for questioning it. That's not just financial abuse, Tori. That's straight up theft. Hazel leaned forward, her voice dropping. Tell me you're not letting him get away with this. I'm not. But I need to be smart about it. I pulled out my tablet, showing her what I'd discovered. Look at these business registrations. The boutique was incorporated 3 months ago, but there are 2 other LLCs created around the same time. Shell companies? Maybe. But here's the interesting part. Piper's name isn't on any of them. Only Stephen's. Hazel's eyes narrowed. He's protecting himself, making sure she can't take control. Exactly, and look at this. I swiped to another document. The lease agreement for the boutique space. The monthly rent is triple the market rate for that area. Let me guess, the building owner is one of those LLCs? I nodded. Stephen's basically paying himself with my money. That sneaky bastard. Hazel grabbed my hand. You need a lawyer, Tori. A good one. Not yet. The moment I get legal involved, he'll know I'm onto him. He'll hide everything deeper. My phone buzzed. Another email from Piper. Third one this week. Hazel noticed my expression. What is it? The mistress keeps reaching out, wants to hire me as a consultant. Delete it. I did, twice, but I hesitated. What if that's my way in? Tori, no, that's crazy. Is it? Stephen's playing both sides. Maybe I should too. Before Hazel could respond, my phone rang. Sophia's face appeared on the screen. Hi, sweetie. Everything okay? Mom? Her voice was shaky. I just saw Dad, downtown. He was with some woman. My heart stopped. Where? Outside that new boutique near the courthouse. They were hugging. Mom, what's going on? I caught Hazel's concerned look. Sophia, listen to me. Go straight home after practice. We'll talk then, okay? After hanging up, I slumped in my chair. My daughter shouldn't have to see this. Then end it, Hazel said firmly. Confront him. Not yet. I straightened up, opening my email. First, I need to understand exactly what I'm dealing with. I clicked reply to Piper's latest message. Available for a consultation tomorrow. 2 p.m. Hazel grabbed my wrist. Think about what you're doing. I am. For the first time in 20 years, I'm thinking like Stephen would. That evening, I walked into a silent house. Jeremy was at basketball practice, but Sophia sat at the kitchen counter, homework spread out but untouched. Hey, Mom. She didn't look up. Remember when you said we could always talk about anything? I set down my bag. Of course. Is Dad having an affair? The directness of her question knocked the wind out of me. I sat beside her, choosing my words carefully. What makes you think that? The woman I saw him with, she's young, pretty, and he wasn't acting like it was just business. Sophia finally met my eyes. Plus, you've been different since yesterday, after you saw something on your phone. My brilliant, observant daughter. I couldn't lie to her. I'm handling it, I said finally, But I need you to trust me, okay? And maybe don't mention what you saw to your brother yet. Sophia nodded slowly. Are you going to divorce him? I don't know yet, but whatever happens, you and Jeremy are my priority. My phone buzzed. Piper's response. Thank you for considering my request. There's more to this situation than you know. Please let me explain tomorrow. Sophia noticed my expression. Mom, what are you planning? Nothing illegal. I managed a small smile. Just protecting what's ours. Later that night, after the kids were in bed, I sat in my home office, reviewing everything I'd gathered. Business records, bank statements, property documents. Stephen had been methodical, but he'd made one crucial mistake. He'd underestimated me. My phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. Mrs. Diaz, it's Piper. I know you hate me, but please don't cancel tomorrow. I can help you get your money back. Stephen's been lying to both of us. I stared at the message for a long time before responding. 2 p.m. Don't be late. Whatever game Stephen was playing, he'd just lost control of one of his pieces. And tomorrow, I'd find out exactly how many other pieces were ready to turn against him. I chose a quiet cafe 3 towns over for my meeting with Piper. As I watched her walk in, I understood what Sophia meant by young and pretty. She couldn't have been more than 31, with the kind of confidence that came from never having your dreams crushed. Until now, apparently. Mrs. Diaz, Tori, she corrected herself, sliding into the seat across from me. Thank you for meeting me. Let's be clear, I said, keeping my voice steady. I'm here as a business consultant, nothing more. Piper nodded, pulling out a folder. I need you to see these first. She spread out several documents. Stephen told me the boutique investment came from his personal accounts. I never knew. I never thought that it was my money. My coffee cup clinked sharply against its saucer. That it was stolen. Her eyes met mine. I thought he believed in my business. Instead, he's been using it to launder money from his other clients. That got my attention. What other clients? Real estate developers mostly. The boutique's just a front. Those inflated lease payments, they're going to offshore accounts. She pushed a USB drive across the table. Everything's here. Account numbers, transfer records, emails. I stared at the drive. Why are you showing me this? Because he's going to pin everything on me when it falls apart. Her hands trembled slightly. I'm the perfect scapegoat, the young, ambitious mistress who seduced him into making bad investments. And you expect me to help you? I expect you to help yourself. Piper leaned forward. Your name's on those joint accounts he emptied. When the FBI starts investigating financial fraud, you'll be implicated too. My blood ran cold. The FBI? It's only a matter of time. One of his clients is already asking questions. She glanced around nervously. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Tori. I'm offering you a chance to protect yourself and your kids. By doing what, exactly? Let me hire you. Officially. You'll have legitimate access to all the boutique's records. We'll document everything. Build a paper trail showing you were brought in to clean up the mess after discovering irregularities. I laughed bitterly. You've thought this through. I had to. Stephen's not who either of us thought he was. Piper's voice cracked. Last week I found out I'm pregnant. The words hit me like a physical blow. Does he know? She shook her head. I was going to tell him, but then I found these documents. He's been playing both of us, Tori, and I refuse to let my child's father be a man who could do this. I studied her face, looking for any sign of manipulation. All I saw was fear, the same fear I'd been fighting since that bank notification. If we do this, I said slowly, we do it my way. No shortcuts, no games. Agreed. And you'll sign a contract giving me complete oversight of the boutique's finances. Piper nodded quickly. Already drawn up. My lawyer approved it this morning. Your lawyer? A woman Stephen would never suspect. She specializes in helping abuse victims protect their assets. Smart girl. Maybe that's what Stephen had seen in her. Not just youth and beauty, but intelligence he could exploit. One more thing, I added. Everything we discuss stays between us. My children can't know about. I gestured vaguely at her midsection. Of course. Piper touched her stomach unconsciously. I never wanted to hurt your family, Tori. I know that sounds ridiculous, but save it. I held up my hand. We're not friends. We're not going to be friends. We're two women who got conned by the same man, working together to protect ourselves. That's all. She nodded, relief visible on her face. When can you start? I pulled out my laptop. Right now, show me everything. For the next 2 hours, Piper walked me through Stephen's elaborate scheme. The boutique was actually doing well. Her business instincts were solid, but Stephen had built a complex web of fake vendors and inflated expenses around it. My money hadn't gone into inventory or renovations. It had vanished into his network of shell companies. One last question, I said as we wrapped up. Why didn't you go directly to the authorities? Piper's hand drifted to her stomach again. Because I wanted a chance to make this right first, for all of us. As I drove home, my mind raced with possibilities. With access to the boutique's books and Piper's cooperation, I could track every dollar Stephen had stolen. But more importantly, I could start moving pieces into position for what came next. My phone rang, Stephen's face appearing on the screen. Hey, honey, he said when I answered. Great news. That investment I told you about? Already showing returns. How about I take you out tonight to celebrate? I smiled into the phone, thinking of the USB drive in my purse. Actually, I have some exciting news too. Let's definitely celebrate. Sometimes the best revenge starts with a single, simple lie. The boutique's third quarter projections are exceeding expectations, I explained to Stephen over dinner at his favorite steakhouse. Piper's actually quite talented at merchandising. Stephen's fork paused halfway to his mouth. You've been working with Piper? Of course. I took a sip of wine. When she reached out for consulting, I saw an opportunity to protect our investment. That's okay, right? Yes, of course. He recovered quickly, flashing that practiced lawyer smile. I'm glad you're taking an interest. The numbers don't lie. I pulled out my tablet, showing him the carefully curated reports. We could double the initial investment by year's end. Stephen relaxed visibly, pride creeping into his voice. I told you it was a smart move. You should trust my judgment more often. Oh, I'm learning to trust all sorts of things lately. Before he could process the edge in my voice, Jeremy stormed up to our table, his server's apron askew. You said you'd be at my game tonight, he accused Stephen. Coach was gonna start me. Stephen checked his watch. Sorry, sport, got caught up at work. Next time? Whatever. Jeremy turned away. Mom, I'm taking my break now. I found him in the employee break room, angrily punching at his phone. He's been caught up at work for every game this season, Jeremy muttered. I know, honey. I sat beside him. Things are complicated right now. Are you guys getting divorced? The question hung in the air. Why would you think that? Sophia said she saw Dad with some woman, and you're acting weird, like scary calm weird. I chose my next words carefully. Your father and I are working through some things. But whatever happens, it won't change how much we love you and Sophia. I'm not a kid anymore, Mom. Just tell me the truth. The truth is complicated. Give me time to sort it out, okay? Jeremy's phone buzzed. A text from Sophia. Dad's girlfriend is at the boutique again, the one I told you about. I caught a glimpse before he quickly locked his screen. Jeremy. Sophia's been keeping tabs, he admitted. We're not stupid, Mom. My children playing detective. I wasn't sure whether to be proud or heartbroken. Back at the table, Stephen was on his phone, frowning. Piper says the store's computer system crashed. I should go check. Already handled, I interrupted smoothly. I set up new accounting software last week. Everything's backed up. His frown deepened. You didn't mention that? Didn't I? Must have slipped my mind. Like how you forgot to mention the third LLC registered under your name. Stephen's knuckles whitened around his wine glass. That's just standard business structure. Of course, I smiled. More wine? Later that night, I met Hazel at our regular spot, the 24-hour diner where we'd weathered countless crises over the years. You're playing a dangerous game, she warned, stirring her coffee. What if he catches on? He won't. His ego won't let him see it. I showed her the latest financial reports. Look how proud he is, showing off his successful investment. He's even bragging to his law partners. And Piper, you sure she won't turn on you? She has more to lose than I do. I hadn't told Hazel about the pregnancy. Some secrets weren't mine to share. My phone lit up with a text from Piper. Steven's here, asking about the new software. What should I say? I typed back, stick to the script, act confused, let him think he's in control. Hazel read over my shoulder. You're starting to enjoy this, aren't you? Enjoying? No. I put my phone away, but I'm done being the trusting wife who looks the other way. The kids know something's up. They're safer knowing part of the truth than none of it. I pushed my untouched pie away. Jeremy asked about divorce tonight. And? And I'm not ready to answer that question yet. First, I need to secure our future. Hazel reached across the table, squeezing my hand. Just be careful. Men like Stephen don't lose gracefully. Neither do I. I stood up, dropping cash on the table. I have a meeting tomorrow with someone from the SEC, anonymously, of course. The Securities and Exchange Commission? Tori, that's insurance. I pulled on my coat. Everything has to be done by the book. No shortcuts, no mistakes he can use against us later. Driving home, I passed the boutique. The lights were still on, Stephen's car parked out front. Once, that sight would have broken me. Now, it just strengthened my resolve. My phone buzzed with another text from Piper. He bought the Confusion Act, but he's asking more questions. We need to move faster. Patience, I wrote back. The best traps are the ones they walk into willingly, and Stephen was already halfway through the door. Your analysis of our market expansion potential is impressive, Tori, Gerard said, leaning back in his leather chair. As one of the city's most influential business figures, his corner office overlooked the same downtown street where Piper's boutique sat. The numbers speak for themselves, I replied, clicking through my presentation. The boutique's growth could support 3 new locations by spring. And your husband's comfortable with his wife managing his investment so thoroughly? I met Gerard's knowing look. Stephen trusts my expertise implicitly. Interesting. Gerard tapped his desk. Because my wife mentioned seeing him at LeBlanc last night with a younger companion. Not that it's my business. It's not, I agreed smoothly. But your interest in investing in the boutique's expansion is. Gerard smiled. Direct, I like that. He pulled out a contract. Let's discuss terms. An hour later, I walked through the boutique's front door. Piper was helping a customer, her small baby bump now visible under her flowing dress. Tori, she hurried over. How did it go with Gerard? He's in. $3 million in expansion capital, pending due diligence. Piper's eyes widened. That's more than we discussed, because I showed him the real books, not Stephen's creative accounting. I lowered my voice. How are you feeling? Morning sickness is better, but Stephen's getting suspicious about why I won't drink at business dinners. Keep making excuses. We're almost... Mom? Sophia's voice cut through the store. She stood in the doorway, still in her soccer uniform, staring at Piper's stomach. Oh my God. Sophia, wait. But she was already running out. I found her sitting on a bench around the corner, tears streaming down her face. That's her, isn't it? Dad's? And she's. I sat beside her. It's complicated. Stop saying that. Sophia exploded. Nothing's complicated. Dad cheated, got someone pregnant, and you're helping them? Why aren't you screaming or throwing his stuff out or, because that's not how we win. Sophia wiped her eyes. Win what? Our future. Your college fund. The life we built that your father tried to steal. Understanding dawned in her eyes. The consulting work, the new investors. You're taking control of his investment? Smart girl. I smiled sadly. But this stays between us. Your brother already knows about the baby. Sophia pulled out her phone, showing me a social media post. Piper's sister announced it this morning, tagged her in ultrasound photos. My heart stopped. Does your father follow? No, but his law partner's daughter does. She just shared it. I was already calling Piper. Delete that post. Now, family or not, nothing goes public. I'm trying. Piper sounded panicked. My sister won't answer. Mom? Sophia touched my arm. I want to help. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. She had my determination and her father's strategic mind. Maybe it was time to stop protecting her and start trusting her instead. Okay, I said, but we do this my way. That evening, I received an unexpected call from Caden, a rival consultant who'd been circling the boutique's success. Impressive work with Gerard, he said. Dinner tomorrow? Strictly professional, of course. Before I could answer, Stephen walked into my home office. Who's that? Potential investor, I said smoothly, then into the phone. Email me the details. Stephen perched on my desk. You're working late. The boutique's success requires attention. I met his eyes. Speaking of attention, Sophia mentioned seeing you at LeBlanc last night. Business dinner. Of course. I turned back to my laptop. How's Piper feeling these days? She seemed tired this morning. Stephen's pause was microscopic but telling. Wouldn't know. Haven't seen her much. Really? The social media post suggested otherwise. His face remained neutral, but his finger tapped the desk, his tell when lying in court. What post? Oh, never mind. Probably just gossip. I stretched, yawning. I should sleep. Big meeting tomorrow. After he left, Sophia slipped in. Dad's making calls in his study. Sounds angry. Good. I pulled up my email. How's your brother? Furious. Wants to confront Dad. Tell him not yet. I showed her Gerard's investment contract. First, we make sure your father can't touch any of this money. Then what? My phone buzzed. Caden again. Dinner's not just professional. I've admired your work for years, and from what I hear, you might be available soon. Sophia read the text over my shoulder. Mom, are you going to? Focus on one thing at a time, I said, but couldn't help smiling. Right now, we have work to do. Does it make us bad people? Sophia asked quietly. Playing these games? No, honey, I hugged her close. It makes us survivors. You look beautiful, Caden said as I slid into the booth at an upscale restaurant across town. That color suits you. This isn't a date, I reminded him, though I'd spent an hour choosing this dress. We're discussing the boutique's expansion. Of course, he smiled, sliding a folder across the table. But that doesn't mean I can't appreciate how the last month has changed you. You're glowing. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. Jeremy, Dad's freaking out. Something about Piper not answering his calls. Everything okay? Caden asked. Family stuff. I typed back quickly. Stay in your room. I'll be home soon. Speaking of family, Caden leaned forward. How are your kids handling everything? Better than I expected. Sophia's become my unofficial assistant. And Jeremy? I paused as another text came through. Sophia. Piper's sister posted another ultrasound pic. Dad saw it. I'm sorry, I said, standing up. I need to go. Let me drive you, Caden offered, already signaling for the check. No, I can't. My phone rang. Stephen. I have to take this. I answered outside the restaurant, Caden hovering concernedly nearby. Where are you? Stephen's voice was cold, controlled. Working late. Why? Come home, now. We need to talk about your new business partnership with Piper. Stephen. And maybe you can explain why my client just congratulated me on becoming a father again. My hands started shaking. Caden stepped closer, mouthing, Are you okay? I'll be home in 20 minutes, I said, and hung up. Let me help, Caden pleaded. You can't. I met his eyes. But thank you for everything. I broke every speed limit getting home. Sophia met me in the driveway. Dad's in his study, she whispered. He's been making calls, drinking. Jeremy locked himself in his room. Go to Hazel's house, I said, handing her my car keys. Take your brother, now. Mom, no. Sophia. I gripped her shoulders. Trust me, please. She nodded, tears in her eyes. I'll get Jeremy. I waited until I heard them leave through the garage before entering Stephen's study. He sat behind his desk, a half-empty whiskey bottle beside him. Interesting investment strategy, he said without looking up, turning my mistress against me. Our investment, I corrected. My money, remember? Money I used to build something successful. He slammed his hand down. And you manipulated everything, got your hooks into Piper, brought in outside investors. Like you manipulated our savings, our marriage? That was different. Was it? I pulled out my phone, playing a recording. Stephen's voice discussing offshore accounts, fake vendors, money laundering. His face went white. You recorded me? No, Piper did, months ago, before she knew what you really were. She wouldn't. She would. Especially after discovering you'd done this before. 3 other women, 3 other investments. All that money flowing through your little network of shell companies. Stephen stood slowly. You have no proof. The SEC disagrees. They're very interested in those recordings, and the documents, and the witness statements. Witnesses? Your last investment partner from 2 years ago? She kept everything. Just needed someone to help her come forward. His lawyer mask cracked. You vindictive bitch. Careful, Stephen. The security camera in here is running. Another thing you taught me. Always protect yourself. Our children are safe at Hazel's, away from whatever scene you're planning to make. He reached for his phone. I'll destroy you. Every client, every contact. Already handled. Gerard's firm is bringing me on as head consultant. Turns out he respects how I handled the boutique situation. Called it masterful asset recovery. Stephen's hands trembled. What do you want? Everything. I placed a document on his desk. Sign over your interest in the boutique, full custody of the kids, a clean divorce. In exchange, I don't send these recordings to the Bar Association. You're bluffing. I pulled up an email draft addressed to the State Ethics Board. Try me. For a moment, I thought he might lunge across the desk. Instead, he grabbed a pen. I never thought you had this in you, he said, signing. That was your mistake. I collected the papers. The kids will collect their things tomorrow. Don't be here. And Piper, the baby? Not your concern anymore. She's found better lawyers than you. I left him there, surrounded by the ruins of his schemes. Outside, Caden waited in his car. The kids? He asked. Safe at Hazel's. I sank into the passenger seat. How did you know to come? Sophia called me, said you might need backup. I closed my eyes, exhausted. Take me to my children. And tomorrow? Tomorrow, I said, we start rebuilding, the right way this time. As we drove away, I didn't look back at the house where I'd spent 20 years being the perfect wife. Sometimes the best view is through the rearview mirror. The boutique's grand reopening drew quite a crowd. Local business leaders, fashion bloggers, and curious onlookers packed the expanded space. Nobody could resist a good comeback story, especially one with such juicy undertones. Your mother is quite something, Gerard said to Sophia, who was helping at the checkout counter, taking a scandal and turning it into an empire. Sophia beamed. She's teaching me everything she knows. I watched from the new mezzanine level as Piper, now visibly pregnant, guided visitors through the store. She'd found her calling not just in fashion, but in helping other women rebuild their lives. The boutique's back office now housed a small nonprofit offering business training to abuse survivors. Quite a turnout, Caden said, appearing beside me with 2 glasses of champagne. Though I noticed your ex-husband wasn't on the guest list. Stephen's been preoccupied. I accepted the champagne. The Bar Association's ethics investigation is keeping him busy. Mom, Jeremy called from below. Channel 7 wants an interview. Speaking of ethics investigations, Kaden nodded toward the reporter setting up her camera. Ready to go public? I straightened my jacket. Truth is good for business, right? The interview started smoothly enough. Yes, the boutique had overcome initial management challenges. Yes, we were proud of our community impact. Then came the question we'd been waiting for. Sources say your ex-husband used your life savings to fund this business for his mistress. Now you're partners with her. How did that happen? I felt Sophia and Jeremy tense beside me. We'd practiced this moment. Sometimes, I said carefully, the greatest betrayals lead to unexpected alliances. This store isn't just about fashion, it's about women reclaiming their power. And the rumors about financial irregularities are being investigated by the appropriate authorities. I smiled. But today, we're celebrating growth, not dwelling on the past. The reporter pressed on. Your ex-husband's law firm announced his leave of absence pending an ethics review. Any comment? Only that actions have consequences. I gestured to the busy store, and that sometimes those consequences look like success. After the interview, Hazel pulled me aside. Stephen's outside. What? In his car. Been there 20 minutes. I found him parked across the street, looking disheveled in his usually immaculate suit. You can't be here, I said through his open window. My name's still on some of the paperwork. His voice was rough. The SEC is very interested in those papers. I know. That's why you're here, isn't it? Hoping to make a deal? He gripped the steering wheel. I could lose everything. Funny how that works. I stepped back. The kids are inside. They don't need to see you like this. Tori, please. Goodbye, Stephen. Inside, Piper was addressing the crowd, one hand on her belly. This store represents second chances, not just for me, but for every woman who's ever been told her dreams are secondary to someone else's schemes. The applause was interrupted by a commotion at the door. 2 men in suits entered, badges visible. Federal agents, one announced. We need to speak with Stephen. He just left, I said smoothly, but I have something you might want to see. I led them to the office while Piper kept the crowd engaged. Sophia followed, carrying the files we'd prepared. Everything's here, I told the agents. Bank records, transfer documents, witness statements. We've been expecting you. You knew this was coming? Sophia asked after they left. Let's just say the SEC isn't the only agency interested in your father's creative accounting. The rest of the event passed in a blur of congratulations and champagne. By closing time, only family remained, including Piper, who'd somehow become part of our strange new normal. The agent said Dad might go to prison, Jeremy said quietly, helping me clean up. That's up to him now. I hugged him close. But we're going to be okay. Better than okay, Sophia added. We're going to be amazing. Caden appeared with takeout bags. Figured everyone might be hungry. As we gathered around the mezzanine tables, I looked at my unlikely family. My children, stronger for having faced hard truths. Piper, transformed from adversary to ally. Hazel, my constant support. And Caden, patient and understanding, letting me set the pace for whatever we were becoming. My phone buzzed, a news alert about Stephen's arrest. Mom? Sophia noticed my expression. You okay? You know what? I put the phone away. I really am. To new beginnings, Caden raised his glass. And to karma, Piper added with a slight smile. To family, I corrected, watching Jeremy actually laugh at something Sophia said. Whatever form it takes. Outside, police lights flashed as they towed Stephen's abandoned car. But up here, surrounded by people who'd chosen truth over comfortable lies, I felt only peace. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying someone else's world. It's about building your own, stronger than before, with people who deserve to be part of it. Guilty on all counts. Sophia squeezed my hand as the verdict echoed through the courtroom. Stephen stood motionless at the defense table, his expensive suit no longer able to mask what he truly was. The defendant will be remanded into custody pending sentencing, the judge announced. As the bailiff approached, Stephen turned to look at us. For a moment, I saw a flicker of the man I'd once loved, before greed and ego had consumed him. Then he was gone, led away in handcuffs. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. How does it feel to see your ex-husband convicted? Any comment on the sentencing recommendations? Will the boutique survive the scandal? Jeremy stepped forward, surprising everyone. Our mom turned a betrayal into a business that helps people. That's the only story worth telling. In the car, Sophia scrolled through news alerts. They're calling it the comeback of the year. The boutique's website is crashing from all the traffic. People love redemption stories, I said, pulling into the store's parking lot. Speaking of which, Piper waited inside, her newborn daughter sleeping in a carrier. The store had become her sanctuary during the trial, a place where she could focus on building rather than destroying. How did it go? She asked softly. 8 to 12 years, Sophia answered, plus restitution. Good. Piper adjusted her daughter's blanket. Lucy deserves better than a con man for a father anyway. The store had transformed since that first confrontation. What started as one boutique had grown into a network of women-owned businesses, each with its own story of survival and reinvention. The new mentorship program has 30 applications, Sophia reported, pulling up spreadsheets on her tablet. She'd inherited my head for business and her father's determination, but used those traits for better purposes. Mom? Jeremy called from the mezzanine. Caden's here with the contracts. Caden had proven himself not just as a partner in business, but in life. He understood that trust had to be rebuilt slowly, that love was shown through actions rather than words. The merger paperwork is ready, he said, spreading documents across the conference table. Gerard's firm is officially combining with your consulting group, making you the largest business development consultancy in 3 states, Sophia added proudly. I signed where indicated, each signature cementing the future we'd fought to create. There's something else, Caden said, pulling out a small box. Not a ring, not yet, but a key to a future we could build together whenever you're ready. Before I could respond, Hazel burst in. Turn on the news, now! On the wall-mounted TV, Stephen's former law partner was being led out of his office in handcuffs. Federal agents have uncovered a broader conspiracy, the reporter announced. Multiple lawyers and business owners implicated in what prosecutors call a systematic fraud scheme. Dad wasn't the mastermind? Jeremy asked. Just another pawn, I realized. Like he tried to make us. But we chose differently, Sophia said firmly. The store's bell chimed as customers entered, women drawn to more than just clothes. They came for the community we'd built, the strength we represented. Ms. Diaz? A young woman approached hesitantly. I read about your story. I'm in a similar situation. Could we talk? Of course. I gestured to the comfortable seating area we'd created for exactly this purpose. And please, call me Tori. As she shared her story, I saw my children spring into action. Sophia gathering resource materials, Jeremy making coffee, both of them showing what they'd learned about compassion and courage. Piper joined us, Lucy awake now and cooing. You know what helped me? Realizing that our worst moments don't define us. What we build from them does. The young woman wiped her eyes. I'm afraid of starting over. Don't think of it as starting over, I said. Think of it as starting stronger. Later, as we closed up, Caden helped Jeremy with inventory, while Sophia and Piper discussed next season's business plan. I held Lucy, marveling at how this child born of betrayal had become a symbol of renewal. You never answered about the key, Caden reminded me quietly. I looked around at my unconventional family, my fierce, loving children, Piper and Lucy finding their way, Hazel's unwavering friendship, and this patient man who'd shown me that love could be trustworthy. Yes, I said simply, but not because I need someone, because I choose someone. The setting sun painted the boutique in warm light, illuminating the sign we'd chosen together. Phoenix Rising, where every woman's story matters. Ready to go home? Sophia asked, gathering her things. Home. Not the house where I'd lived in comfortable denial, but the life we'd built from truth and determination. Actually, I smiled, taking Caden's hand. I think I'm already there. Sometimes the happiest endings don't erase the painful chapters. They transform them into something meaningful, something real, something worth fighting for.